Earning Your Name. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
And I'm Peg Thomas, multi-award winning author and editor, and we are two editors. Did you see that? Two editors for
It's-
5 minutes.
We're writers, we're not mathematicians.
This is true. I don't math well.
All right, but we did get our 5 minute clock started. Earning Your Name. What
What's your
we
name? Wait a
mean,
minute. What's your name?
yeah, exactly. Not all characters in all books need to have a name
And you know why?
because,
Because you don't need to remember all those names,
yes.
right? As a reader, we don't need to remember everybody's name. It gets to be a chore.
And one of the things that most readers don't realize this, it's something that they've just been subconsciously taught. But when they see a name in a novel, something triggers and says, this person is important. I better hold on to this information. So one time I was editing a manuscript and I started tracking names. And by the time we got to the end, I sent him a list. I'm like, you have 168 character names in this book. He literally named every person. That's far too much for a reader to remember. So Peg and I have decided to call this earning a name. So, Peg, how do characters earn the right to be named in a book?
They need to be important to the story. They need to not just be drive-bys, not just cameo appearances. Although I'd love to put cameo appearances in my book from historical figures. So you might see Benjamin Franklin pass by in a carriage or something. But everybody knows who Benjamin Franklin is, right? Or should anyway. But just an everyday person who is going passing by in a carriage and throws his cigar butt out the window, we don't need to know his name. It's not important to the story. He's not going to come back into the story. And by naming him, you are setting up expectation with the reader that they're going to see this character again. And then if they don't see the character again, they can feel cheated. Wait a minute. I learned his name and he's gone. Why is he gone? Um, so I don't know about how other people are, but I know for myself, when I get done reading a book, I very often can't remember the characters' names anyway, the major characters' names, much less the minor ones. Don't stress your reader out to try to memorize names that they don't need.
And the way I would always describe this to my clients is if the character is a placeholder, if they're only important because of the action that they're doing, like we need to know that they called a mechanic. We don't need to know the mechanic's life story or their name. But what's important is that they called a mechanic. The one time when this worked beautifully, where the character was actually named, it was I read a romance novel, and this she's stranded, so she calls the mechanic, and she reads the little name on the thing, and his name's Bob or something like that. But then she realizes she needs a date for an event, and so she asks Bob if he wants to go. And it's so important because later on you find out that he's not Bob the mechanic. He's actually the owner of this, huge mechanic chain, but he was wearing somebody else's coveralls. So in that situation, knowing the mechanic's name, it was a great little twist and things like that. But if you only need to show that the car got towed and that's what made your character late, then don't name if you can if your story can still be told without naming the character, then you probably don't need to name the character.
And you realize what we just did there. We really told what genre we write, right? Because you're talking cars and I was talking carriages.
Yes. And she can name drop. I mean, I suppose I could name drop in by putting some contemporary politicians in there, but at the same token, because I write contemporary, it's going to date my books, where her books are already dated. We already know that. So it's okay.
They better be.
So we're doing really great on time. We've got a few seconds left. So Peg, any other tips or tricks you want to give to people about deciding whether or not they should name their characters?
Um, really whether or not is if they're gonna appear again somewhere in the story is very important because you're setting up that expectation. And if there is some external reason why that would be important. And I can't think of any other than the example that you've already mentioned with the name tag, but maybe the we'll go with the blacksmith's name was Bob, and then later she's going to come across another Bob, and maybe it's the third Bob that she winds up marrying, and so the name would have meaning then. But unless there's some external circumstance for that to happen, if the character does not return again in the story, I don't think it's worth using the name.
Don't bother.
Make things simple for your readers to enjoy the story about your main characters and don't befuddle them with characters that they don't need the names on.
Absolutely.
Befuddle is a very good word.
It's
I
not a
are a
character
writer.
name, though. All right. We'll stop this now before it gets out of hand. Come back next week. We're going to start a little series next week. So we'll give you more details then. Until then, I'm Karen Beery.
And I'm Peg Thomas. We'll see you next time.